So in Python, can we give anything as variable name? For example, something like this? Absolutely no. There are some set of rules that you require to follow for creating the variable names. So, what are the rules that you require to follow for creation of the variable names? What are the legal names and what are the illegal names? Let us try to understand. The first rule that you require to follow for variable names is every variable name must start with a letter or underscore. For example, you gave the variable name as my variable without space and it is valid. And another example is my variable prefixed with underscore. So underscore is a valid beginning of the variable name in Python. For example, you can give variable names like underscore person name, underscore age, etc. Second rule is variable name cannot start with a number. For example, see this one. I am trying to begin the variable name with a digit called 1. It is not allowed. So digits means the numbers cannot be at the beginning of the variable name, but they can be used inside the variable name. So what are the characters that are allowed in the variable name exactly? Of course, alphabets are allowed. Apart from that, the variable name may contain the numerical characters, means digits, and also underscore. That's it. Other characters are not allowed. That means you cannot use any kind of symbols or special characters within the variable names. For example, hyphen, asterisk, hash, dollar, this type of characters are not allowed. Only you can use alphabets, digits, and underscores within the variable names. But of course, you cannot begin the variable name with a digit, but you can use digits within the variable names. The next rule is variable names are case sensitive. That means, for example, here we have created a variable like my variable, but if you try to create another variable like my variable where v is uppercase, it is valid. Even though the spelling of both of these names are same, they are treated as separate variable names because it's different in the case. For another example, you can create one more with a as uppercase. Like that, with some difference in the casing, you can create any number of variables with same spelling. But the last one is the naming convention. That means it is not a rule that you require to follow, but in the real world application development, it is strongly recommended to follow this naming convention to make your code good. That is, to separate multiple words within the variable names, either you can use underscore in between the words, or you can try to follow camel case. But in the real world, most of the Python developers separate words with underscore. For example, you can give it like my underscore variable, or you can follow camel case. That means the first letter of your word is lowercase, and after that, every word begin with uppercase. Means, for example, if you want to create a variable like person name, you can give it like person name. Here, notice person is a word, name is another word, right? But the very first word begin with lowercase, and after that, every next word begin with uppercase. So when you look at the code, based on the uppercase, you can easily differentiate between the first word and second word. For example, in case if you give the same like this, see, in this case, it might be sometimes difficult to identify the separation of the words. Actually, this is one word and this is another word. So by just randomly looking at the code, it will be difficult to identify the words. That is why, without giving space, it is recommended to give uppercase for the next word. So it is called as camel case. This is one approach. The alternative is you can use underscore. For example, person underscore name. It is valid. So based on your personal preference, you can follow either of these, but underscores are generally used by real-world application developers. There is no particular benefit from this underscore, but it is a common practice. Anyways, let's try to practice the same in code. Let me create a new Python file, variablenames.py. So can I create a variable that begins with a digit? Absolutely no. Here, ignore this value, it is just some random number. But you cannot begin the variable name with a digit. It is invalid. Can I create a variable with digit in between like this? Yes, absolutely valid. Can I use a variable name that ends with a digit? Something like this? So, it is valid. So for the first line, we are getting error. So let me comment the same here. But after that, there are no errors. Exit code is 0. That means no errors. So what do you understand from this? You cannot begin the variable name with a digit, but you can end with digit. The next point is, suppose I am trying to create a variable name with dollar in between. That is invalid in Python. Some other programming languages such as JavaScript allow you to have dollar, but it is not valid in case of Python. And similarly, let me try to create a duplicate variable name. For example, person name. And again, person name. So these two are independent variable names and it is valid. It's because there is some difference among the casing. So you can use that. With Pascal casing also you can create the variable names like this. So these three are independent variable names and are legal in case of Python. But most of the common practice in Python programming is separation of the words with underscore like this. This is the most common practice in Python. It is just a tradition to follow but not must. In case if you are not comfortable with the underscore, you can try to follow camel case. Alright. So these are all the rules that you require to follow for variable names. And one more thing here. In this case, it is showing some warnings like typo in word Harsha or something like this. It is not a typo, right? That's my name. So you can ask PyCharm to ignore this kind of warnings. So to hide this type of typo errors, that means spelling mismatches with a dictionary, in this problems window, you can click on this gear icon and uncheck this checkbox called show typo. So now onwards, that typo warnings will be hidden. Alright, this is all you need to know about variable names in Python. So these are all the rules that you require to follow while working with the variable names.